Nikki James, 43 years old, lived at the Parkway Manor Apartments on Rogers Road in Lexington, Kentucky. Nikki had two children, 13-year-old Dion, and 5-year-old Skylar. Dion enjoyed writing and drawing. He was in the school's Saturday comic workshops. He was a 7th grader at Windburn Middle School. He was known as a friend to everyone, and a helper to his teachers. Skylar went to preschool at the Mary Todd Elementary School, and enjoyed drawing. She was extremely smart, and loved learning new things. She was always the first to arrive at school, and always greeted her teachers with hugs. Nikki and the children's father, Darrell Williams, lived in Cincinnati, Ohio until the couple broke up 4 years ago. After the breakup, Nikki moved with her children to Lexington, Kentucky. The two were in an ongoing battle for custody of their two children. Nikki would not allow Williams to see his children despite court orders. In 2019, an arrest warrant was issued for Nikki James for contempt, for not following the court orders. She continued to ignore the court orders but was never arrested. Several contempt arrests were issued. However, Williams was aggravated that police were not putting more effort into arresting James, and in hopes of getting Nikki to allow him to see his children he dropped the charges. However, she still would not let him see his children. In the last week of April, 5-year-old Skylar's school conducted a home visit but didn't find any major issues. At 8:33 a.m. on May 1 in 2022, Nikki called police and told them the apartment complex was stalking her, and hacking into her phone. A unit was dispatched to the home. At 9:46 a.m. an officer arrived at Nikki Williams' apartment. He stayed for approximately 10 minutes, then left. Later in the evening, Nikki called Williams and told him she was in a cult and feared for her life. Williams feared for the safety of his children, so he called 911 and requested a welfare check. 2 units were sent to the residence. The officers stayed for about an hour then left. On May 2, Nikki knocked on several doors at her apartment building. She was covered in blood, and telling people to kill their kids and kill themselves. She also told them she killed her children. Several residents at the complex called 911. When police arrived, they found Nikki covered in blood. She had no pants on, and had cuts on her body. When officers approached Nikki, she began to strike out at the officers. She had to be restrained in handcuffs. When officers entered the apartment, they found Dion and Skylar, both with multiple stab wounds. The children had no pulse and were not breathing. Nikki and both children were immediately transported to the UK Medical Centre by ambulance. Nikki had self-inflicted wounds. She had a large gash to her neck and an injury going down the front of her body, and another wound on one of her hands. At the hospital, Nikki made statements saying that someone else killed her kids, but that person could not kill themselves. Nikki James was treated, then placed under psychiatric care, then later released to the Lexington Police Department. She was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Emergency efforts were made to save Dion and Skylar, but to no avail. Both children were pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Nikki's public defender did not argue against probable cause at the hearing, so the case was waived to a Fayette County grand jury. A neighbor who wishes to remain anonymous said he was outside the complex just moments after the incident. He said Nikki walked up to him, and he asked her what she did. He said she looked up at him and said, "I killed my kids, they are in heaven. God told me to do it." He said he turned around and began crying. He said he was full of rage and hurt. He said he knows people will draw their own conclusions, but he feels it's time Kentucky focuses more on mental health issues. He said, "Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and everyone is going to say what they want to say, but I know there were some mental health issues behind this, along with just life. Cause mental health is something serious, it needs to be addressed, it needs to be made a #1 priority, not just here in Kentucky. He went on to say that James was a good mother. He said she never screamed at her kids, and was always doing things with them like video games and crafts. During the investigation, it was discovered that James was told her lease would not be renewed, and she would need to move out by the end of the month. Investigators believe she may have felt trapped with no way out. Jard Paul, vice chairman of Central Kentucky's Housing and Homeless Initiative, said, "It seemed to be a catalyst to a catastrophic event. So whatever that might be, we don't know the situation that led up to it, but our hearts go out to the loved ones of the family." Michael Wilson, chairman of the same organization, said he believes the city could have done more to help this family. He said, "2 children are ultimately killed by the mother as a result of what the mother went through throughout the process. I believe that there can be collective healing in grieving together, leaning on and supporting one another in the disbelief, in the shock, in the anger, in all of those stages that come with grief and trauma," said Tomriel Brooks, a licensed social worker. She continued, "The grief process, which typically starts with shock and disbelief. So it could take a long process, and it takes as long as it takes to heal from tragedies such as this," licensed clinical social worker Tomriel Brooks said. Cultural messages around strength, perseverance, resiliency, which could actually end up being barriers to seeking outside support, whether that's professional or informal support, Brooks said. On Monday, May 9 in 2022, dozens of people gathered to honor Dion and Skylar. Pastors from nearby church, friends and community members came together and released balloons. The somber crowd prayed and asked for peace. Cerise Bouchard taught Skylar at Mary Todd Elementary School. She said losing Skylar was like losing her own child. She has been reading a book to her students about saying goodbye. She's hoping this will teach other students about how to say goodbye to their friend. Fayette County Public Schools released this statement about the deaths of Skylar and Dion. "We are heartbroken over the tragic deaths of Skylar and Dion Williams," said Fayette County Public Schools Superintendent Demetrius Liggins. "Skylar and Dion brought joy and light to their teachers and classmates, and we ask our community to uplift all those touched by this unimaginable loss." Darrell Williams, the father of the 2 murdered children, set up a GoFundMe campaign to raise money to get his children from Kentucky to Ohio. Williams has 2 older daughters from a previous relationship, Dariah and Diamond. Prior to the murders, the girls were making plans to come to Lexington to speak with Nikki in hopes of seeing their half-brother and sister. In an interview, the grieving father told reporters that he and his kids were failed twice by the system that is supposed to protect them. The sisters are struggling to come to terms with the tragedy.
Mother to do something like that to their children? And where did you step though?
The sisters were just beginning to communicate with their brother Dion, who was 13 and just learning to text.
I was going to call Dion and ask to speak to his mother because whatever Nikki and my father has going on has nothing to do with me. And so I was wondering if she would at least give me and Diamond the rights to come see them.
Williams told reporters the world is very, very hard on men. And even more so on black men trying to do the right thing. I understand they got their own preset perception of how they want to view us, but some of us know how to grow up when we grow up. And we do the right thing, and we still get pushed back. Things like this happened because nobody else seen what I seen. In 1969, forensic psychiatrist Philip Resnick reviewed 131 cases of filicide dating from 1751 to 1967. He discovered that in 49% of the cases the motive for murdering the children was to save them from a cruel world, poverty, or to relieve suffering. Since 1950, child homicide rates have more than tripled. In 2004, more than half of the children murdered in the United States were murdered by their own parents. Later studies found that parents with a history of attempting suicide, depression or psychosis, isolation, and full-time caregivers were more likely to commit filicide than other parents. Society struggles with how to handle parents who kill their children when there's mental illness involved. On one hand, society wants justice to be served for the lives taken. On the other hand, society feels someone would have to be deeply disturbed to commit such horrific crimes against their own children. The insanity plea varies from one state to another. Some states have even done away with it. The states that do allow the plea require mental illness be proven. When the defendant is found not guilty by reason of insanity, it means the person is not legally responsible. That person is then committed to a forensic psychiatric unit for treatment for their mental illness. A not guilty plea was entered on behalf of James in court. No bond was set. No further details have been released about her trial date. James is being held at the Fayette County Detention Center in Lexington, Kentucky. Funeral arrangements for Dion and Skylar have not been made yet. Nikki James was a deeply disturbed woman. She murdered her two beautiful children by stabbing them to death. It's unclear if she did this due to a looming eviction from their home, or if she had other reasons. It's clearly apparent she was trying to keep the children away from their father. Did she kill her children because she felt if she was evicted he may end up with custody? Or did she kill them because she was mentally ill? No matter what the reasons, two innocent lives were lost. May Dion and Skylar rest in peace. That concludes this episode. Keep your eye out for the next volume, coming soon. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.
Want to help support the channel you love, and get something in return? Simply purchase some Elizabeth's Chronicles merch. We have coffee mugs, t-shirts, sweatshirts, cozy blankets, beach towels, phone covers and more. Use the coupon code EC10OFF4U and get 10% off your order. The link to order is in the description area below this video. Thanks for helping Elizabeth's Chronicles continue to make the videos you love.